Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to do just a little bit of an kind of a overview from yesterday. I think a couple of things that came up. Mid-year reviews are always set up to try and get everybody together on what's accomplished and so far and what we need to accomplish for the next 6 months based upon our research plan. And Patricia, you weren't here yesterday for the research plan, but I put the whole research plan up and all the places that we had been successful and what things we had left to do. And I think we got 95% of what we set up in 2021 we done. So that's good. We're at least through 2025. Then we'll let Zach and you and Peg figure out what to do for the next 20 years. So a couple of things that I wanted to just highlight. We did talk about that EPA, BLM, USGS, all have now developed national programs on produced water. They're moving in that direction. So from a national perspective, we are seeing the federal agencies get more involved with these non-traditional water resources. So that's one thing. And wanted to highlight that under the EPA's Water Reuse Action Plan, they do have produced water as one of the 5 major categories. And the coordinator of the produced water for the EPA and the National Water Reuse Action Plan is the New Mexico Produced Water Research Consortium. So what I see is that this consortium is going to have even bigger role as we move forward in the next several years. So Zach and Patricia and Peg can manage that. I'll be sitting on the sidelines. The other thing that I wanted to mention, we talked about strategic water supply for New Mexico, that has passed, at least for brackish water. But the fact that the state's putting money into non-traditional water resources is something new. We also heard from Shane Walker that the state of Texas passed $1 billion a year for 20-year water infrastructure bill that includes looking at non-traditional water resources. So I think the concept of things like brackish water and produced water that are non-traditional are going to be the water of the future in the West. So this consortium has a major role in that. I think that we heard yesterday that there will be an organization that goes and petitions the Water Quality Control Commission in the next 3 or 4 months to do relook at produced water, which means that we have to have our act together in providing information to the Water Quality Control Commission so that they can make decisions, which means that our website has to be outward looking. We're going to talk about that this morning, how we're modifying that to have our own part of the website that's internal for the consortium to work together for all of our documents, but that we're going to make a portion of that website available so that it looks at all the national issues and all the national research and has national impact. So those are kind of the highlights. Pei talked about the research program and kind of that we've done 10 or 15 technologies. We've got a lot more technologies to do. And today is going to be Technology Day, highlights of all of the research that's going on so that you guys can look at that and see the kind of efforts that New Mexico State and the research organizations here have done. And then I wanted to bring up one last point is there was some discussion, Fred Berner brought it up as one of the questions about the issues around putting water in the Pecos in Texas. I will say that there's some discussion about how can the state of New Mexico meet compact delivery requirements on the Pecos and the Rio Grande with produced water that's going on right now. We don't necessarily have to put it into the Pecos River or the Rio Grande River in New Mexico. We can put it in at the state line or 1 foot below the state line. So there's discussions on that. So there's opportunities still, I think, out there. And finally, Jason mentioned that if we're looking at doing projects in New Mexico in the near term, make sure that you work with us so that we can work with the New Mexico Environment Department to make sure that we have those notices of intent in before we have a final Water Quality Control Commission reworking of those requirements. So I think that notice of intent is a very simple and easy. They've done a very good job within the New Mexico Environment Department on working with us and doing that. So if you're looking at doing a technology in the next 6 months, it would be better if you get that notice of intent in now than trying to wait 6 months from now, because it may be a significantly longer process in the future. So those are some kind of overviews that I've got. Zach, would you like to add anything? Okay. Paige, is there anything that I missed on? Okay. Because, yeah, this morning's going to go. We've got all the professors here. You know that those guys can't quit talking, so we want to keep on track. They got a lot of data, a lot of work that we're doing. You're not going to believe the quality of the work that you're going to hear this morning, so we need to get on with it. And Patricia is going to start us off. She's going to start off, and then she's going to come back and end it later this morning with the dean. So, okay, Patricia, thanks.
Thank you. So for those of you I haven't met, I'm Patricia Sullivan, Associate Dean in the College of Engineering. I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the things that are happening at the university and the college with respect to the consortium. So as you know, years ago when we started the consortium, we kind of did it in a very grassroots way. So we thank all of the industry partners and definitely NMED for helping us get things going when we were working on a shoestring. Last year, the legislature put in $1.25 million into the consortium so we could actually start doing research focused on priorities of the state, as opposed to backfilling with competitive research that we hoped met the state needs. So that was a big change for the consortium in having some funding for very focused, direct research in New Mexico. This year, as a result of the consortium's outcomes and definitely support from NMSU Government Affairs, NMED, the Governor's Office, and industry partners, we'll be seeing an increase up to $2.25 million in operating funds from the consortium that start July 1. Of that, about $500,000 will be strictly into staffing up. So those of you who have met Zach, he's our new assistant director. He'll be overseeing all of our external affairs and also looking at some of the operations. We're bringing on Rosa Munoz, if she'd stand in the back. She'll be coming on as our operations director. She'll be basically putting a lot of the protocols and processes in place and helping Zach with the website and some of our outreach and engagement. We're also bringing on Amanda Collier. She is a community engagement coordinator, so she'll be working directly with Zach and Rosa on all of our community outreach and engagement. So Zach will be talking a little more about the work we're going to be doing to try and elevate the outreach and education working group and workshops, podcasts, community meetings, really trying to address the concerns that came out of the Water Quality Control Commission hearing and others, where people didn't feel like they knew what the research was or they didn't feel it existed. So we're really going to elevate the work, and Mike said we've got to get our act together up front. So it's really elevating the work of the Education and Outreach Committee to let them know all the research that's taking place in a very transparent way. The website is a big area, which Zach will talk about. He and Rosa have been working on that. A couple of things that Rosa's going to be taking on, in addition to working with Zach and Jason at NMED, is we're going to be developing a very step-by-step how to do a pilot project. So Mike mentioned the notice of intent. By July 1, we'll actually have something on the website that's very clear and transparent, so you're not just trying to place phone calls all over the place wondering, who do I contact for this? So it'll be a very step-by-step process, a link to the notice of intent, a clear step-by-step of how do you engage with the consortium as an external evaluator for your technology. There's been a lot of discussion about the technologies being evaluated by the consortium, and yesterday there was a question that came up, how are we creating review committees? So we're working right now with Dr. Shu to make sure we develop a process where we can actually have more formal review processes and make that a process within the notice of intent and the pilot. So those are just some things that are happening. The other big thing we think happened is we did get some capital outlay funding of a little over $4 million that will be used to enhance the water quality lab that Dr. Shu and the other researchers are using here at New Mexico State. So we're in the process of, that will become effective July 1, but that will be a major influx of capital funding to consolidate some of our research laboratory equipment and upgrade some of the analytical capabilities. So instead of working in 5 or 6 different labs in civil engineering, we'll actually be able to move a lot of this work and increase the work of the toxicology group over at Arrowhead Center and Genesis A. So Zach and Mike will talk a little more about the plans for the upcoming year with education and outreach, but I just wanted to give you an update on where we are with our state funding. Thank you.
So, like it was alluded to, I'm going to be talking to you about public education and outreach. Here's our disclaimer. Thank you, Pei, for reading it all so I don't have to this morning. It's quite the mouthful, but there it is for reference. And before I dive into what we're thinking about in terms of modifying and moving forward and what the future plan is for the public ed and outreach, I wanted to do just a quick kind of recap of things to date since the consortium's inception, and how far the working group and the education and outreach folks have come. So like Patricia was talking about, there's a lot of different facets to E&O. There's workshops, public events, conferences and webinars, the fact sheets, podcasts, the website, and of course the working group itself. And so, in the beginning, I know there were a lot of kind of in-person workshops, Farmington, Carlsbad. I thought there were some in Espanola and Hobbs. And then when I think of the public events, I volunteered for some of those that were really fun at the fairs around the state. And I think we had polled up to almost 700 individuals about what they knew about produced water and how they felt about reuse applications and if they thought it was safe. And all of that effort turned into a really great peer-reviewed paper that Shuei in the back had led and published. And so for conferences and webinars, at least on our website, we've got over 30 presentations from the several years. And we have 7 fact sheets on the website, and there's several more that are in development. So the podcasts, I think, we need to. The podcasts, we have kind of 2 different flavors on the website. So the New Mexico Produced Water Research Consortium kind of owned podcast. There's 5 of those episodes. It's called Let's Talk Water New Mexico. And then more recently, there's been a collaboration with the Toro podcast that's called The Water Zone. And so that one has gotten a lot of hits. Pei, I don't know if you've heard, there's like over, I think, 230,000 downloads on your episode alone across 18 different platforms. And so it's been very, very impactful. And of course, there's our website. It holds at least 34 papers. A lot of those are peer-reviewed publications from work that has come directly out of the consortium, as well as some other kind of tangential ones. But we also have organizational documents, reference documents, the PowerPoints, and a lot of the other content on there as well. And so, of course, the working group and the industry members that have been helping us have assisted in pushing and maturing a lot of these efforts throughout the year. So there's been a lot of great accomplishments here. So, but as Patricia mentioned, we have funding now to put people in full-time roles to help accelerate and grow these even more. So I think it's a really, really great opportunity. But then the question kind of arises of how do you prioritize these things, right? And where do you put most of your time and your effort? So I'll talk on that a little bit, but I do want to give a quick basis for why the public education and outreach component is so important. I think a lot of us know. There's been some, I'll say, constructive criticism over the last couple of years about data, as well as the website, and they kind of range from simple comments that are easy to address, like we cannot find the data on the website, or the website is too difficult to use, okay, duly noted, to more, I'd say, hyperbolic statements. There are proposed regulations that will allow toxic radioactive frac waste to be used outside the oil and gas industry, ... Imagine toxic frac waste on your chilies. And I don't know if people know what I'm talking about here, but this is actually a relatively popular Instagram post. There's hundreds of thousands of views on this post alone, and I get text messages from my friends that are saying, what are you guys doing? And so I think everybody in this room knows this is categorically false. This is not what we're trying to do, not what anybody's trying to do. But at the same time, it kind of hints of, are we getting the message out there? Are we communicating enough with the public to let them know what we're doing? And so while these kind of sit on two different extremes of like, we can fix the top one pretty easily, it's not rocket science, to what are these people talking about? We have stuff that's in the middle. And so 2024 article, I've got it highlighted here. It just says, they argued that there isn't yet enough data on the quality of produced water and treatment. So 2024, okay, maybe the data wasn't out yet. Maybe all the pilots hadn't been conducted, et cetera, et cetera. But then not even a month ago, May 14th, 2025, quote, there is no evidence that produced water can be treated and reused safely. Without knowing what needs to be removed from the produced water, it is impossible to develop treatment standards or assure the public that discharges will be safe. Those are a little bit more, I think, nuanced in what they're trying to say. And for us, again, takeaway message is, are we not getting this information out there? Because a lot of us in the consortium have seen data that's promising, but having talked to actually several people, multiple people within the consortium about what kind of data they have seen, maybe we're not doing a good job at disseminating it within as well. Because I think there are questions internally of, where is this data and what does it look like? And this was, some good questions yesterday about this. And so I think that sets the table of like, what are the things that we need to do, very high level, right? Get the information out there. And so looking forward, we've kind of got all of our icons up here of the different the public education and outreach efforts. This is kind of a qualitative prioritization. Some of this is still in flux, but all that to say, the working group and the podcast, I think those are doing fantastic. I can't imagine too much is going to change there. So I'm going to kind of chalk this up as we're going to continue these as is. Workshops, public events, conferences, and webinars. Again, continue these because these are great efforts, but I would love to see more frequency of these events, going out, meeting people, talking to them face to face, holding more seminars. And I know that the working group, I think, right, Mike, has got at least drafts of some different webinar series that are going to be coming out. So we're kind of already getting moving on these behind the scenes. All right, fact sheets. I think we're always going to be needing to develop new ones as Pay's research group finds more and more stuff. We're going to need to communicate those research findings to the public. So we're going to have to develop new. And then looking at the old ones, I really like the idea and the spirit that the existing fact sheets have, but I do wonder about the accessibility. Some of them might be a little bit too technical. So we need to work with the working group and understand if that is a legitimate concern or not. And then the website, I think that is probably going to be one of my primary focuses in my new role here, and there's upgrades that are already underway. And I've got several slides I want to show here in the future, or here in a couple of minutes, specifically about the website, but then adding in one new effort here. We've talked about it, we've deliberated on it, and I think it's finally going to happen again with some of the funding that's come through from the state. But yeah, social media, getting that whole platform set up so we can start rocking and rolling there. And so what is our strategy? I think simply put, it's to use the website as kind of this central hub, which of course holds all of this information, right? But we want to leverage these other products, right? Our social media, fact sheets, webinars, conferences, podcasts, et cetera, to drive eyeballs to the website. And why do we want to do that? Well, like I said, the website is very central to a lot of the things that we do, at least on the public-facing side. I'll just go back here. Hold on. Again, the website holds all of the content that we want the public to understand and to know about. And as we, I guess, quote unquote, beautify the website, we make it more easy to navigate. We add more information-rich data on there, and we improve the website over time. I think people are going to have a much more friendly and hopefully better user experience going there. And that you also, if you're coming from Instagram to the website for the first time, maybe you're going to be surprised at how much other information data is out there. You're going to get sucked into the podcast. You're going to get sucked into looking at the webinars, et cetera. So it's kind of this great centralized place where you can come to learn more. Why else? I think because it's scalable as well. The in-person workshops are great. Meeting people face-to-face is great. Like I already said, we need to do more of that, but some of those efforts aren't as scalable as trying to shove people into the website to find out where they can learn more. So, having more people working on the website, those efforts are going to be more or less amplified as we get more and more stuff there. So it's a great way to leverage that. Cross-generational. So, of course, Gen Z, millennials, my generation, we know how to use and navigate a website, but we also know how to do TikTok, all these other kind of weird, crazy things that kids are coming up with today, but older generations might not be as familiar with. And so if we're thinking about priorities and how we want to focus on making sure that information gets disseminated to as many people as possible, we want to find some sort of platform that is accessible to everyone. And so I think that's a really big benefit that it's not really widely talked about as much. And then, hey, Mike. Exactly. Proving my point. Thank you. Beautiful, Mike, beautiful. Couldn't help yourself, huh? And then the last is it's measurable. And I think a lot of these are measurable, but again, is the website being kind of the central hub, we're going to be able to track downloads, how many people are getting looking at the fact sheets and downloading those, how many people are listening to the podcast, et cetera. And so once we get that data out in front, and I don't want to make any predictions of what it's going to be, but once we kind of start seeing that data, maybe we'll find deficiencies in certain areas. Maybe people aren't reading as many of the research publications for some reason relative to watching the webinars. And so it'll give us better insight as to how we can improve the experience there and where we might need to refocus some of the effort over time. Okay, and so somebody said, I think it was Jason maybe, that said it yesterday, vaporware. Here are some examples of, no, it was Mike maybe? Somebody said it, I loved it. So I want to give some tidbit, or show some very minor updates that we're doing on the websites and maybe some more major ones. But the caveat here is that the website is still in flux, and what we're doing is going to be a constant improvement over time. And so, but what I've got here is just a screenshot of our older website. And then here is the newer one. There's not a lot that looks necessarily different, and so it might seem like a small change. Like, for example, okay, now the water data portal button has a buddy for the membership portal, and then, oh yeah, maybe the navigation menu has changed, but they've changed, and it looks like a small change, but there's a lot of thought that has gone behind it, because we're, behind each of these tabs, we've reorganized how we're thinking about user experience on the website and how people interact with it. So that's one example. Another one is the leadership. We previously had just the leadership team, and I honestly think it was just Mike, your face, and Pay's face on there. But now we're updating this and expanding it to include more people, including our research team, which I think is really important. And it's not just in the civil engineering department, but it's also in Department of Biology. We've got Kale up there, Department of Animal and Range Sciences, everybody at NMSU that's contributing to this. And so, these full photos are used as a placeholder. One of the things we've got on the docket is all of the researchers, heads up, by the way, we're all gonna get new headshots done by Marcom, so marketing and communication. And those are gonna go up there. They're all gonna be consistent. They're all gonna have a nice touch and feel to them to kind of bring that aesthetic up to the next level. And then lastly, the publications and the research. I just want to highlight, one of these many things that we're doing, but this is our existing publications page, or was our existing publications page. And it was great because it had a lot of the information and a lot of the research that was conducted, peer review papers, we put it on the website, but the form that it was in, I think, was a little challenging for the general public to digest in an easy way. And so one of the processes, or one of the things we're releasing or launching, and you can't see the top, but it says top line takeaways. And I think the name is still a little bit under construction as well. But the general idea here is to take each of these research articles and break it down into a much more accessible way for the general public to read and understand. So for example, we've got the title up at the top, but then just trying to lay out very clearly, like, what is the problem here and what is the approach that we're taking to overcome that problem? What are the results and the conclusions, and then what are next steps? And so it seems very, very simple, but in my previous role working at the Department of Energy at Berkeley Lab, we had developed these for a lot of the pilot projects and research that had come out of the lab, and they were really, really impactful and helpful for the general public. And so lastly, Courtney has been working extremely hard and diligently on our SharePoint. And so where the website is kind of this public-facing entity, right, or this product, what we have here is the SharePoint, which is for internal use only, and it holds pretty much all the working group documents. And so previously, we had meeting notes, we had the agendas, those got emailed out, but there wasn't necessarily a centralized repository for all of the previous ones or the upcoming agendas necessarily. So all of that is going to live on the SharePoint site. So you can see here all the different working groups, membership agreements, et cetera. And one of the things we still need to do is tinker around with permissions. And so if there's sensitive information in any of these, we're going to have to give permissions to allow or not allow people to access some of these folders. And then at the bottom, I think this is really cool. Courtney had built out an event. And so of course we have our mid-year here and then our annual review meeting, but I'm envisioning this kind of expanding to include all of the produced water events that we might be involved with. So I know, Mike, you're speaking up in Columbus, Ohio at the Industrial Water Solutions Conference at the end of the month. That one's co-hosted by, I think, WEF and Water Reuse. But, imagine again, the website, and I guess in this, we can port the events over to the website as well, but just at a high level, having all of the produced water specific events in one place, I don't think I've quite seen that yet. And so once you start getting that in your head of like, oh, when's the next conference coming up? Instead of going to Google and trying to figure out where it is, you can just come to the NMSU, New Mexico Produced Water Research Consortium website and find out all the conferences where they're happening, all the information and details around those. And so I think I will try to end early here, open it up to some questions and just say thank you to everyone. And yeah, thanks.